Mr. John Timar, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Eddie. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. So you are a former Navy SEAL and
True.
the CEO of Cliff, the clean energy drink company, who just rebranded Sanford MMA into Cliff Fight Club. I had to rock my Cliff FC shirt.
Love that shirt.
So I've been dying to know this for a while now. What does Cliff mean?
Oh man, I don't know if we want to go there on this interview, man. There's a long history of awesomeness behind the name of Killcliff, and I might reserve that one for another day.
Okay, fair enough.
Let's
Fair enough.
let's just let's just say it was an expression amongst some dudes that kind of got out of hand and turned into the name of a brand.
I understand. So
Yeah,
I'm in Virginia Beach, Virginia. This is my hometown, which
cool.
has a huge military footprint. So I race sailboats, and we sail out of Little Creek, and I'm constantly seeing the SEALs, go on trials leaving out of there. And I believe the Navy SEAL Foundation is based out of here also, which
Yes,
Cliff is a major sponsor of, right?
correct.
Are you yourself a former SEAL?
I am. I am. I'm a former SEAL, and I remember sailboats in my way all the time. I remember one time we were doing a underwater demolition exercise, and we had 500 pounds of C4 strapped to obstacles underwater, and a sailboat came cruising into the harbor when we were supposed to turn, like, to launch the shot, and they had divers, and we had to go like clear them all out, like, hey guys, we're about to blow you up, so leave,
Oh,
and you
wow.
can come back in a few hours if you want. There might not be much left, but yeah, man, I remember that was good old days. I lived there right near the base
Oh, awesome, awesome.
in the
Well, I
Virginia Beach area,
apologize
so
on behalf
yeah,
of the
yeah.
sailboating community. My bad.
Oh, I like it, man. It's like organic travel, just the
Yeah,
wind wherever you want to go.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine, Mitch Aguiar, he's also a former SEAL and
Yes.
actually just got his BJJ black belt. But he sponsored me for a couple of my fights, and I remember going to the grand opening of his massive supplement store, and I believe he was selling Kill Cliffs out of there. And so that was like my first glimpse of seeing the drink kind of around the combat sports world, right? And then I started seeing like big name UFC fighters like Israel Adesanya and Robbie Lawler also repping the brand. And like I'm an old school fight nerd, right? So I remember when, all the fighters thrived off of sponsorships and they were all over their shorts and everything. And so I love seeing companies that are willing to support fighters. What made the brand want to get into the MMA realm?
Great question, man. So the history of Killcliff, when Killcliff was founded, it's founded by a colleague of mine, Todd Ehrlich from the SEAL team. So we served at SEAL Team 8 together, and there was a guy named G.W. Garrison. He goes by the name Deuce, and G.W. Garrison ended up winning the World Championships as a in the IBJJF as a black belt two times, and at the masters level, he was like in his early 30s at the time. But like he's a total beast. Like nobody ever came close to him. He's a legend in like the local Atlanta community. He's he's a Travin black belt. He teaches there still. He's still with Killcliff. He runs all of our social media. So G Dub was already a really accomplished jiu-jitsu competitor. I'm a brown belt. I just was told I'm getting my black belt this summer. So I train at Alliance headquarters, and I've actually trained with Mitch Aguiar as well. He's a great dude.
Yeah.
So I've been in the sport. I got my blue and purple belts from Hoist Gracie, and I got my brown belt from Leo Noguera at Alliance headquarters. And so I'm about to go up a level, which means I'll have more people coming after me. That's awesome. But so we love it. So it's one of the things where our in our community and the people in the company, it's something that we were doing just as our passion. It's a hobby, it's an interest. Some of us compete, some of us don't compete. So we already had that in our business, and we also we support a bunch of charities. You mentioned Navy SEAL Foundation earlier. We've given over $1 million to Navy SEAL Foundation over a multi-year period, and that's near and dear to our heart. We've had multiple SEALs in executive positions in this company over time as we've been building it, and it's something we continue to serve the mission for. But we also support emerging vets and players. You may have seen them around. That's with Randy Couture and Jay Glazer and those guys. So we donate our gym. Our gym is we have a big MMA cage at our headquarters that was gifted to us by Fuji Mats. And so really, it's a high end, it's a great piece of equipment. And we have it branded up with the Navy SEAL Foundation, Emerging Vets and Players, and Kill Cliff Fight Club. And so we have them in every Wednesday night doing MMA workouts, focused on veterans and former professional athletes. They're looking for a group in a way to identify after taking their uniforms off. So it's just the short answer to this long-winded response is it's in our DNA. We multiple people in the organization compete and train at different levels, and we have strong pedigree in that domain. So we in the early days of Kill Cliff, we sponsored guys like Lucas Lepre, and so we were very active. And for a couple of years, the company went down a different focus area in the functional fitness domain. But since I came on board a couple of years back, we broadened it back out, and we really focused on mixed martial arts, where we had strong partnerships that made a lot of sense for us with the guys at Sanford, and it kind of wrote its own course from there.
Yeah, I mean, it does make a lot of sense. There's a lot of companies that get involved in mixed martial arts through sponsorships, but don't necessarily have any sort of background or even really knowledge of the sport. So that's pretty refreshing to see a company that, the guys actually train and they are martial artists themselves. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Up. All the early guys at Kill Cliff, some of which, they didn't make it the distance, but great dudes. They all at some point like stopped doing CrossFit and started doing jiu-jitsu, which is kind of funny to see. So we have, it's just numerous dudes. They're all training now. And then one of the things that I found is there's a lot of guys when they get out of the SEAL teams and they're looking for, ways to manage, their interest, whether it's like adrenaline, or they're looking for camaraderie, or, there's a variety of reasons they're looking for that continued physical test. There's so many guys from the community that get out and within a short period of time start doing jiu-jitsu as one of those ways in which they, continue to keep their mind sharp and to engage in combat sports.
That's so true. I mean, I got my blue belt from Frank Cucci, who's a former.
Yeah, man, old school SEAL.
Yeah, it's like.
Was that the Evolve Academy? Is that what it was? I'm trying to remember.
It was Lynx Academy.
That's right, it was Lynx. I lived in the Northern Virginia area for about 5 years, and I trained at a Hoist Academy up there. Okay. And I remember competing in local Naga tournaments. This is like 10 years ago.
Many moons, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great though. It's a great outlet, I think, even for like law enforcement as well. It's just
absolutely.
Honestly, I think jiu-jitsu should be taught in schools personally. Like that's my own personal opinion.
I don't know. It might take the playground fights up to the next level, though. Next thing you know, you got guys walking around with broken chicken wings and stuff.
I think it would take the bullying down, though.
Yeah, it probably could. I don't know.
So Kill Cliff has been blowing up. Joe Rogan even has his face on a can.
Yes, he does.
How did that relationship come to be, and how did his spicy pineapple flavor come to fruition?
Good story, man. So we've been very fortunate in that Joe had been drinking our products for years, right? It wasn't like one day he decided he was going to start working real close with Kill Cliff. He had been drinking our products for probably about 4 or 5 years before we formalized our relationship with him. And so he really loved our original line of drinks, which is kind of a lower caffeine. It has natural ingredients for energy, B vitamins, electrolytes, other things in there to help with that. As green tea caffeine, but it is a low caffeine product. It's designed to reduce inflammation in your body and also to give you a pep in your step. Like it's a way better, more it's a way better, more suitable element for like an afternoon cup of coffee than having the coffee. Like you're not going to crash, you're going to feel good. So he was a adopter of that drink. He liked it quite a lot. And in 2019, we decided to infuse that product line with CBD, and we did it because our veteran customers were struggling to find natural alternatives to some of the heavy medicines that they were being put on by the Veterans Administration and other forms of healthcare they were seeking. And we also had, given that we did and we still do have a massive functional fitness community. Those guys are very health minded and they're early adopters in a lot of things. And a lot of our consumers were drinking our product or products like ours, and then they were separately consuming CBD. So we realized that there were problems in the industry. It was kind of like the Wild West. There wasn't an authoritative source. You know, you don't know what you're getting. And, you know, we have a strong reputation in terms of premium ingredients in our products. And so we took it upon ourselves to create, basically consolidate the usage and need state into, why don't you consume your favorite functional beverage with CBD in it? And it's going to be a better value than either one separately. And the ingredients will work really well together to make you feel better. So we did that, and it really took off. And then I remember the day, I'm pretty sure it was September 13th, 2019. We all of a sudden we get this main feed post from Joe Rogan, and he's like, "I found my new favorite beverage," and that was really cool for us. And as a small beverage brand making our way in the world, you got to take shots. Like, if you look at every time you go to your local convenience store, grocery store, you'll see there's always new drinks on the shelf. The energy drink category is hyper competitive. And unfortunately, the companies that win are typically not always the ones with the best products, but they're the ones with the most money. Everyone's buying that stuff. It's not authentic. It's all being bought. And so for us, we're just bootstrapping this business and trying to get to, trying to get that broader adoption. Finding ways to amplify our platform and our brand are really, really important. And the fact that Joe Rogan was already a consumer at Kill Cliff, and it was authentic, and he's an authentic guy. Whether you like him or you don't like him, we happen to love him, but whatever your standpoint is on him, he's authentic. He says what he thinks, regardless of what you believe about it, and that's what makes him appealing, because people want to hear people say what they think, and effectively in a non-offensive way. And he does that, and so you can choose to agree or disagree, but that's what he does, and people love that. And he's very aligned with the fitness mindset, a health and wellness mindset, and he likes things like, he's early adopter and new things like CBD. So we engaged with him after that, and we kind of built a partnership. And he effectively came into our brand. He's one of the stakeholders in Kill Cliff now. And so fast forward about a year and a half after that, we did the spicy pineapple launch with him, first as a CBD drink, and then we also did it as a clean energy drink without CBD. And that was really to increase the trial of the product and distribution, because CBD distribution's still something that's nascent in the market. So in order for more people to be able to enjoy the flavor, it was important to have something that could get distributed more quickly. But I'll say that was an interesting collaboration. I think we did 16 iterations with Joe to get the drink right. And I remember he texted one Saturday and he's like, "Yeah, I want to do a flavor. I want to do something spicy, like a spicy cola." And we started hammering it out. And I talked to our innovation guy. And he's like, "Look, man, the problem with cola is everybody has opinions on what cola should taste like, either Coke or Pepsi, right? Like, it's really hard to make people happy with cola. And oh, by the way, if you go taste most CBD infused colas, they taste terrible." So he came back, he's like, "We got to have a fruit to kind of, to really anchor in the spice and the CBD so it tastes good." And so we kind of started like bounce around fruits. And next thing you know, this idea of like a spicy pineapple came together, where you get a little bit of you get the sweet with the spicy. And we were thinking, we actually went off on a digression about like marinades, like a Hawaiian ribeye, and how good those can taste. And so it basically turned into that. It's like, yeah, the idea of like a pineapple with some kick sounds incredible. So let's do that. And then it took us probably took us a couple months to nail the flavor and to come up with the package design. And we literally went from, I think, collaboration in September to launch in December of 2020. And then 2021 in April, we followed up with the same drink without CBD, with a lot of caffeine, as like a high caffeine, clean caffeine alternative that was not infused.
And I've tried it myself, and it is far cleaner, in my opinion, to a lot of these other brands, your competitors, I suppose. But why do you think those companies aren't kind of following the same or aren't maneuvering in the same sort of way towards the cleanliness? And you think it's just because they're more focused on marketing?
I think that there's a few issues there. To create a truly clean product, it's expensive. right? And if you look at energy drinks, it's a promotion heavy category. Promotion heavy category. So you end up like if you're creating a premium product, but then you have to promote it, then you're eroding your margin, and you need your margin to help you support the business, right? So I think part of the challenge is that it's more expensive to create clean drinks. We don't use artificial ingredients. We don't use sugar. The stuff we use is really expensive. So I think that's part of the issue. The other thing is, consumer interest is still in such to where, 0 calories with artificial ingredients at a mass scale really trumps low calorie that's keto or paleo approved, right? So the consumer, and you see it when you go look at packaging, you'll see companies saying 0 carbs, or you see, 0 sugar, and you start to look at it. Well, they're just loading it up with sucralose primarily and other artificial sweeteners, especially when you get the really high caffeine content. If you took raw caffeine and put it in your tongue, it's terrible. It's so bitter. So when you see a hyper caffeinated product like 300 milligrams of caffeine and it says no sugar, you know how much artificial sweetener they're pumping into that thing so it tastes good? It's terrible for you. So people are the bigger energy drink players are creating a charade. It's like a facade. They're basically saying like, hey, we have better for you ingredients in here, but there's no calories. But the what you're giving up for no calories is you're putting a bunch of artificial stuff in your body. So we're low calorie, like 15 calories a can, 16 or 20 calories a can. So we're perfectly okay with that. But I think to answer your question, it's more expensive to create clean drinks, and it's also the consumer awareness is not, so the consumer is not really aware of the difference between, just at first glance, like 0 calories seems like a good thing to them, right? I'm not having sugar, 0 calories, but they're not really. It's the education of the consumer to say, well, is that actually good for you? And most people just think because it's not sugar, it's good for you. But there's plenty of studies out there that you can take a look at related to the impact of artificial sweeteners on things like your glycemic index, right? So once you go down that rabbit hole and start looking into it, it's not good for you at a number of levels, even though it doesn't have sugar. It's just not good for you. So it's a little bit harder. I mean, our whole society is unfortunately conditioned to poor food products, artificial processed foods, and artificial sweeteners and sugars. And so when you come out with something like us, it's truly a clean alternative to all that. Then it's an uphill battle, but we feel like it's worth doing because we're helping people live better lives.
Have you felt any pushback from those competitors at all, or competitors at all? Have you?
In what sort of way? I mean, it's hyper competitive, so everyone tries to kill everybody every day. It's just like going in sparring and jujitsu, right? Somebody's always ready to rip your head off. So what sort of way do you think are you thinking?
I don't know, any kind of ways to try to like push you out, or kind of.
Yeah. I mean, it's just what this business is, right? I mean, a lot of times, the key to volume growth in the beverage space is obviously, getting your products in coolers, getting distribution in the commercial marketplace. That's what you want to achieve for the long term growth. But what you end up finding is, I mean, the expense of doing that is dramatic, right? So it goes back to what I was saying earlier, which is like finding different ways to punch through, because like, you'll see competitors will offer ridiculous fees to retailers on an annual basis to keep companies like us out. And that's just the operating environment. It's just what it is. But yeah, it's hyper competitive. But that also makes it kind of fun, right? Because you got to find ways to win.
And I feel like that's kind of what you're doing with Sanford MMA. I've talked to a couple of the guys like Robbie Lawler and Ryan Bader, and they were telling me how the CBD in the kill clips really helps with their recovery. And well, I guess they're not even Sanford MMA guys anymore, right? They're
right.
with FC guys now. What made you kind of make the leap from sponsoring individuals to taking on the task of sponsoring a whole team?
Well, there were a lot of moving parts to that. I think that it was when we looked at it, right, it goes back to how do you make the largest impact for the brand? And we were already the energy drink and CBD drink sponsor of the team prior to making the shift with the name. We did have an interesting opportunity in that Sanford was making some adjustments in their sponsorships and marketing programs, and they wished to support the team, but in a different way than how they had been. So it opened up. There was an opportunity. First and foremost, there's an opportunity. But for us, we really welcome the opportunity on a variety of levels, because it goes back to, making impact and getting your name out there, and that's the thing that's the hardest to do. Because if you can do that, then everything else follows. Distribution follows. Opportunities with retailers follow. Consumer demand follows. But you have to find a way to get your name out there. So it really, if you think about it, taking on the gym allows us to be present front and center on a weekly basis in UFC, Bellator, and one, and other fight networks like PFL as well. And it does that because by us becoming the gym in the name of the team, well, on the Jumbotron, the fighter fights from the Killcliff FC. When the commentators are talking about it, this guy is at Killcliff FC. When they're talking about the coaches, this is Henry at Killcliff FC. This is what they're doing at Killcliff FC. So the idea of getting organic impressions in the MMA media, but also in the surrounding sports media, and also, I mean, it's the name of the team, right? So people are going to begin to recognize our brand, so that when they do see it on the shelf, it's going to be familiar to them, and they're more likely to try it. So it was a way for us to get way more exposure than any individual fighter. And case in point, we have individual fighters. We love the individual fighters we do sponsor. They're great dudes and athletes, but it's you have to compare that to the impact of having 80 professional fighters on your team fighting every weekend of the year. Like, you're constantly front and center in terms of your brand and building your brand awareness. So for small brands like us, it's really important. And this goes back to our collaboration with Joe Rogan. He's got one of the most massive podcast platforms in the world. He organically, authentically likes us. It's always important that people we work with, they authentically like who we are, what we do, where we're going, who we support, because it makes it real. And we're in a world where everything's fake. So we like to have things that are real around our brand. And Rogan's real, and his support for us is authentic. And he loves the drink that he created. He created that. We just guided it. He created it. And same thing with the FC, the guys you mentioned, like, Robbie and Ryan, all these guys that we've been working with for years. They've been supporting us in fundraising for the Navy SEAL Foundation for 2 years now. So they know who we are. We took a whole bunch of them out to Jackson Hole for a trip last year to support the Navy SEAL Foundation. It was super cool. They love our brand and who we are, and we feel the same way about them, which makes it a real symbiotic type relationship. And it's just one of those ways that helps us punch through.
This is definitely unique, new, at least to me. I don't think I can recall a company ever rebranding a team like this. It kind of reminds me of how you'll see like companies like purchase stadiums, right? So whenever you go to, the Cowboy Stadium, there's a name associated with it, or a company, these different sports venues. Is this a permanent move for that stable?
I think that it could be. I think it could be interesting for the sport writ large, right? So if you're asking yourself the question of how can you get more resources in to support up and coming athletes who are training, who haven't had the big purses yet, how can you support the facilities, the medical care, the top of the line equipment? How do you do that? It's really hard. And this opens up what we're doing here. And it's kind of hats off to some of the thinking as well, predating us, with Dave Martin and others they kind of own what was Sanford and now is Killcliff FC. From an ownership standpoint, Robbie and David, and there's a few other guys in on it, Henry. The thinking is really, I think, innovative, because if you can begin to brand and sponsor gyms, then that brings new sources of income in for these gyms to invest it back in themselves and in their teams. So we see it as potentially the beginning of an era that where I think we'll see copycats. Why wouldn't you right now if you have a good gym and you're looking to expand and you can align yourself with a really cool brand? Because one of the things that we've been doing since we came on board is we're actually bringing in other Navy SEAL brands as sub sponsors to the Fight Club. So we're bringing in more resources to support the team, which is going to allow them to continue to invest in facilities and coaches and other sorts of amenities for the fighters. And it's going to allow them to do more as a team. And at the same time, it doesn't prevent any of the fighters from the team that going out and getting personal sponsors. We're not precluding them from going out and getting personal sponsors. And they can go get a personal sponsor from another drink. We don't care. But what we're doing is we're focused on the team and helping drive new resources into the team, which can create, opportunities for training and maybe take some of the pressure off fighters who are trying to train full time, but they just don't have the wherewithal to do it.
Yeah, that's huge. And a lot of the sponsorships has been taken away with the uniform policies in the UFC and
Right.
things like that. So Killcliff is an American company, obviously, but you also support UFC middleweight champion Israel Adesanya, who's phenomenal, and
Yep.
he fights out of City Kickboxing in Auckland, New Zealand.
Right.
Do you have any plans to maybe start another Killcliff FC over on that side of the world?
Well, we have there's a nuance. There's a nuance here because some of the people that we work with that we sponsor individually as fighters are in their own fight camps. They're not technically part of the Fight Club, which is the organization that was Sanford and is now Killcliff FC. So Izzy's a great example. He's managed by the same people, but he's not part of that team. And he doesn't want to be, and that's okay. So we have fighters there, just Killcliff athletes, just like we have CrossFit athletes and other athletes as part of our group of ambassadors. And that's kind of where Israel Adesanya is. We do have a signature drink with him. We have a strong collaboration with his camp, but he's not technically part of that fight team that's owned and managed by Dave Martin, Robbie Lawler, and Henry Huft. So currently, no plans on trying to make that happen because he's got his own thing going on, and we respect that. So he's an ambassador to the brand. He's an athlete that we'll continue to support. And you can see us also looking. We've worked with Stipe and others over the years, so you can see us. We're obviously going to be looking outside of our fight club to continue to support top athletes that need support and that are aligned with our brand. But for the foreseeable future, the focus for us is going to be on really making this fight club stuff awesome. You hear my ringer in the backdrop?
I hear it going off.
Yeah.
Is that a ringtone?
Our own ringtone. Killcliff makes you drink all happy. You can download that ringtone on our app, our Killcliff app.
That's hilarious. Well, do you think we'll ever see like a Killcliff fighting championship or Killcliff putting on some sort of combat sports event or anything along those lines?
I think that those ideas have been discussed, and it's just it's baby steps, right? We got one thing at a time right now. We have a lot going on. We have really interesting collaborations, and we're extremely focused on making the here and now work really well. But I think over time you can imagine natural extensions to what we're doing, which could include our own events, or it could include events surrounding the fight team in particular. So those are all things that are intriguing to us, but it's just a matter of priorities at this point.
Okay, maybe you could take on like your squad versus another energy company squad. Who knows?
Yeah, well, one thing that we are going to do is that would be awesome. By the way, we'll take that. We'll take that. We got a pretty rough group. We are looking at potential, doing some really cool like cross training programs with the special forces community for the guys at the gym. So I know there's a lot of guys that really support those dudes, and there's a mutual respect, and some of that training already happens with other gyms, and so we're going to be looking at providing that cross functional. It's just a cool experience for the dudes there. They're shooting, moving in special operations, and dudes they're pro fighters. They have a lot of commonality, and they really get along well. So we're going to be looking at doing some stuff like that, which will be really cool for everybody.
Awesome. Well, where can we buy Killcliffs at, and how can we follow along on the journey?
Yeah, well, you can look at our website to find a store locator, killcliff.com. And we have our @KillCliff social media handle and a whole variety of hashtags to go with that. So that's the best way to stay on top of things. We have a landing page for KillCliff FC right now that will be being built out into a more comprehensive website resource over the next couple months. And we have distribution many places across the U.S. We have some lead retailers like the Walmarts of the world. You just have to kind of dig into our store locator and see what's near you, but you can always buy online. We started out as an online business, and the online piece of our business is still a very large piece of it, and something that we love because we love the direct consumer interaction with our brand and direct feedback and creating unique offerings for them. So
Awesome. Well, Mr. John Timar, thank you so much
yeah,
for taking up the time to speak with me. And I want to thank Killcliff for doing so much in my personal community, in my backyard, through the Navy SEAL Foundation. It really means a lot to me. And I wish you guys nothing but continued success and prosperity.
absolutely. Thank you, man. Come see us sometime. Let's go. Let's go training at the Killcliff headquarters, man. We'll have a good time.
Yes, sir. I would love to. Absolutely.
Take care, Eddie. Appreciate your time.
You too.